Well, Layla and Josh Rule are the founders of Jayla in the Morning, Healing Through Marriage. The journey of our next duo is a testament of their patience, resilience, and unwavering faith through life's many challenges. Are you in need of some inner healing? Layla spent over 30 years navigating the complexities and pitfalls of single life. She overcame deep childhood wounds and trauma through intensive healing workshops and became certified in inner healing. Seeking companionship, she completed a vigorous marriage in 12 months or less biblical program to prepare her for marriage while God prepared her for Josh. Meanwhile, Josh endured a tumultuous 12-year marriage driven by a desire to be a better father and husband than his own upbringing had shown him. That previous marriage dissolved, prompting him to seek personal growth through programs focused on marriage and childhood trauma recovery. Their paths converged at a church in Myrtle Beach where God brought them together. From then on, they pursued mentorship from pastoral marriage counselors and continue to study therapeutic healing strategies that help them to learn, grow, and help others heal relationally. This inspired their YouTube channel, Jayla in the Morning, to offer wisdom and insights that help others improve their relationships. Today, they join us to share their wisdom and inspire us with their journey. Please help me welcome two of my favorite people, Josh and Layla.
Thank you.
We need our notes.
Yeah, he's turning this on. All right. While Layla's getting in position, I'll just say that I really like this painting back here. I know the whiteboard's kind of covering it now, but it's the lion with the lamb. And this morning, when Stacy was praying over me, she prayed in tongues over me, put her hand on my head, and I heard, "I am protected." And then when I saw you turn around that painting, I was like, "I am protected."
Yes.
And that's very important to me because I've been struggling with that for a while, just feeling protected. I've felt like I've had to protect myself for my whole life, and it doesn't work too well in marriage, I can tell you that, because I'm not supposed to be protecting myself from my wife, and, any triggers that she might bump into. So, she mentioned, Stacy, in our intro that, I had overcome a tumultuous 12-year marriage. I'll just start, before that.
I get to benefit from those 12 years of lessons learned.
My parents divorced when I was 3. So, what I wanted more than anything in life was my family to be together. And I thought that I could make that happen, that my own strength and my own resolve was going to find a godly woman and we would just be together the rest of our lives. And, no matter what we came across, that we were going to work it out. And, all I needed was someone who was committed to marriage too, who, didn't believe in divorce. So I thought that I had found that, and we were, other than, this quote-unquote commitment to not divorcing, we didn't have anything in common at all. But I was so headstrong, and I even heard, knowledge drop into my head, "This is the worst mistake of your life." And I was like, what? And I just kept going. I just kept forging ahead. And I'm like, red flag after red flag. No, I'm just going forward. And, this is what I want. And let me just find a verse in the Bible that corroborates that this is right for me. Oh, there it is. This is happening. And, oh, we can't have the wedding then? Well, we're just going to elope, And
I call it his free will marriage.
Right.
His free will marriage.
Right. I mean, God still blessed me in that he gave me 2 awesome boys. I love Ethan and Matthew. They're 8 and 10. Ethan's the older one, who's 10. And Layla gets to be a bonus mom to them. But just want to say all that to say that don't force it, you know? Don't be so, gung-ho for marriage that you ignore red flags, that you push ahead when God tells you no. Wait for the one that he has for you, so that when he tells you yes, then you can have the marriage that you want.
We understand that some people are already married or have been married, or maybe there is a desire in your heart for that. So just real quick, who has some experience being married? If you're willing to just raise your hand. Okay. Oh, some experience being married. Okay. Who's currently married? If you're willing to say, if you have a contract or maybe a covenant. Thank you. Okay, who wants to be married? I love it.
They want to stay married to each other.
You want to stay married, right? And are there any singles that have yet to find the mate of God's choosing? Hey, we have some singles that have yet to meet the mate of God's choosing. Okay, well, I'm Layla. Oh, yeah, I saw a few more. And I waited, I think it was maybe 38 years or so, waited to be married. I didn't wait on discovering who I was supposed to marry. My picker was broken, and I dabbled a lot in the relational world, but it really just didn't work out. So I have the privilege to be the bonus mom of 2 young boys today, Ethan and Matthew. They are 8 and 10-year-old boys. Yeah, and someday they're going to have the opportunity to come to a place like this and heal from, was I a mistake? We hear that. I said, oh no, God has a purpose for you. So,
yeah, can we get into the relevance part then? Because
yes, thank you, babe.
I think you had started that with,
keeps me on track.
With the show of hands. But why does marriage bring healing? Is I think the question that we're here to answer today. And I told you a little bit about my childhood trauma with just being headstrong and wanting to be the force that kept my family together. Yeah.
I'm not close enough to touch you like we had planned,
Yes,
just in
okay.
case I have a thought.
It's a thought away.
Okay, so as we were getting ready for this, healing through marriage was the topic that came up. And I said, babe, what about the singles? I was like, I got a heart for the singles. And he's like, well, God's telling me about marriage. And I was like, what about everybody else? So what we're going to share, what we're going to teach on today is a technique. It's a communication technique. So I want to just say it's not just for married people. It is for people that want to be better communicators in life and use talking as a tool for healing, not for harming, right? We all know words are powerful. And so as Josh is very headstrong, I love that and adore that about him. He's a Joshua, right? We heard him get prophesied over earlier today. It was so spot on. I'm like, I'm married to Joshua for a reason. I'm discovering it. Good Lord, because God knew I needed a strong man to, handle all of this. But
you're right. It works. It works for singles too. It works for relationships, like even with talking to your children, so your children
or colleagues
can feel heard.
That are like children.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Like especially when somebody starts getting repetitive on you, and you're like, I wish they would shut up.
Might be a ministry person that you've partnered with before.
This technique helps you to allow them to be heard.
Right.
But
just wanted to clarify. It's not just
the part that I really want to get to, specifically with marriage, and why I wanted to keep the marriage in the title.
Yes, babe.
Was that there is no relationship that matches a parent-child relationship as good as a marriage does. Because when you have that commitment to your spouse, that's the closest thing that you can get to recreating the caregiver you know, relationship that you had as a child.
So subconsciously, we're attracted to a person that we think is going to give us what our caregiver never gave us. So we think, oh, I'll finally get, you know, what I didn't get from my family of origin. Is the subconscious part of that.
So people typically will pick someone that's very similar to the parent that did not give them that particular need. Because they're like, oh, I'm going to get it from you. You're going to be mine, you know, you're going to be the one.
I'm going to get what I always wanted.
Yeah. But that person's deficient in that
You're
area.
going to complete me.
That person is also deficient in the same area that their caregiver was deficient. And so it makes it even tougher to actually get that need met. But in order to be healed, like that's what you are subconsciously looking for, is to recreate that and get that healing from that from that caregiver. So what we call that is you know, they call it an imago match. We learn this from therapists. We learn this from the Space Between book that's written by Harwell and Helen Hendricks. And,
has anybody ever heard of the imago therapy, imago dialogue? That's sweet. You've heard of it. Have you practiced it before?
No.
All right, this is going to be a friendly reminder and refresher.
Yeah. So yeah, most people will they'll either find somebody that does match that, like I said, or they'll force those characteristics on the person that they find. And they'll do it, you know, it'll happen subconsciously. They'll just kind of like, you know, bring it out of the person to recreate that relationship where they had the frustration the wish that they want granted.
Right. So in marriage, when there's the commitment gets heightened, right? Did anybody sign a contract when they got married the first time? You have a legal binding document, don't you? Right? Or there's a covenant before God. Did you ever swear in front of God and people till death do us part? It's a contract, right? Some contracts wear out. Covenants do not. So I'm going to open up with a verse in Proverbs 15:1. I know we opened up already, but Proverbs 15:1 is really the baseline for where we're going to be sharing this technique, because talking is dangerous. Talking can be dangerous, right? We know the power of words. And I'll speak for myself, I've oopsed with words before. Sorry, hon.
Yeah, I'm sorry too.
Proverbs 15:1 says, "A gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger."
Yeah, and we can definitely say that that's true, right? Because
lived it.
We did, and what we noticed, you know, like at the beginning, you know, things were pretty awesome, right? We barely had a fight.
Oh yeah, I mean it was easy.
Yeah, everything.
God
was
put us together.
Excitement and joy, and you know, we
We're gonna be married.
planned out the wedding, and
We're waiting
all the things, right?
for this to happen.
And we didn't rub each other the wrong way at all.
Of course not. But I could go home to my own place.
I know, and me too.
We weren't bumping into each other as much.
Yes, so.
And no one snored that I know of.
Right. Yeah. Tried to fix that with a loud fan and a mouth that just.
We're still trying to fix that.
Right.
Okay, I'm a little underslept, but that's good.
But when one of us would trigger the other one, you know, by saying something like in Proverbs, a harsh word, it would co-escalate. Right?
Right,
So
we were doing
I
this
say
to each
something
other.
that, you know, rubs you the wrong way, you say something back to me
Well,
that
you.
feels disrespectful.
Well, you.
The next thing you know, we're bum, 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 we're up here.
Anybody know what we're talking about?
Yeah.
Okay, we're not revealing people, right? Okay, just making sure. Like, even colleagues can do this, right? Like, would you please just shut up?
Yeah,
Okay.
so what we figured out eventually was that we got to get to that first part of the Proverbs verse. At least one person in this back and forth has to have the sense to give a gentle answer and not the harsh word, so that we're not co-escalating. We actually, the person that's like, oh, ooh, let me give a gentle answer, they can regulate the situation.
Right. So we've all experienced in any friendship or dynamic, I'm going to just use like an in-home experience. You might be processing something and you just slam the dishwasher a little bit harder than normal, or a cabinet, you're like, get out of my way. It's like, it's just a cabinet, right? So it takes one person to pay attention to the signal with like, uh-oh, we're out of harmony, right? The whole time we're here, we're talking about unity. This whole message is about to keep in sync and harmony, right?
And then when you notice that the particular argument gets repetitive, like it's like, we're living the same nightmare over and over every couple weeks or something, you know, like where this particular issue is making us co-escalate and trigger each other, you know, because,
So pay attention to
because
the
of the
pattern.
childhood trauma, right? It's not what's happening right now. We get stuck in that pattern because there's something unresolved from our past.
So the reaction is 80% of back there and 20% of
That's
what
right.
actually
That's
is going on in reality in front of us.
That's exactly right.
That's right.
So I'm gonna shift gears.
Yeah, go for it.
So we got married and we're like, wow, God finally put us together. Yay, let's see what God does. And we're just digging in. We're still getting to know each other. And we went away. It was a 4th of July. We had our kids with us, and it was just a beautiful weekend. We went with other friends, and they had kids, and we were living out of coolers, and we're cooking out and building fires. I mean, it's messy. You guys are in ministry, right? Ministry's messy. Like family, it gets messy and gross and smelly and whatever. We had such a blast until we're on the way home, maybe 10 miles away from home. Everybody's tired, cranky, hungry. And a smell threw my brain back to my family of dysfunction. And I wanted to run so fast. I knew Josh loved me. I knew he would never do anything to harm me. And I jumped out of the car in the middle of the road and said, I'm walking home. The poor kids are in the back. They have no idea what's bonus mom doing. Is Layla okay? And I could not stop the reaction in my brain firing off. You're not safe, you're not safe, you're not safe. We never know what the trigger is. It was a smell. It could be a song. We don't know what the trigger is. But if our brain isn't safe enough to heal, the old pattern's just gonna railroad and take right over.
So then we went to therapy.
So it was that signal that said, uh-oh, we need to get some help, we need some tools. We had gone through a lot of premarital therapy to know what we were entering into. We're like, hey, here's my baggage. Here's my baggage.
Yeah. He gave us some, they gave us some really good tools, personality profiles and other tools. Circling was one that was kind of very similar to imagoing, except for you didn't mirror it. You just dumped it.
Right. If you have a pen and paper, I just encourage you, I'm gonna write a few things down here as Josh takes you through it, but if you want to capture this in a way and you learn better visually, just please feel free to take a picture of the whiteboard. And one thing that we discovered, and I grew up in a family of a lot of girls, not around boys. I had 7 sisters and 1 brother. Wow. And 3rd of 9. I didn't know that one of the main things that guys need, get your head out of the gutter, one of the main things that guys need is respect. They need respect. And that is part of the ingredients. Where's Barbara Moore?
Even though Aretha sang it, guys need to.
Okay, so guys need respect. Well, I'm not telling you anything you don't know. But women need to be heard.
Yes.
I don't know about y'all, but I quiet right down when I feel 100% heard.
Yes.
I'll let you
Sometimes
do that
those
on the
things conflict against each other because I don't want to hear if I don't feel respected.
So that's our foundation.
That's the foundation, I guess. So what we're going to start with is the first step of safe conversations. So you have a sender and a receiver, and one of the things that we have incorporated is a listening flower.
Oh, yeah.
That's on the other side of the whiteboard. But that identifies who is the listener. Whoever's holding the listening flower has to pause the movie that's in their brain, whatever it is you're thinking about, or whatever you might want to respond to the sender, you've got to put that on pause. And especially anything that they say about you, because it's easy to get offended, right? You know, or to want to defend yourself in that moment, but that's not the time to, you know, tell them, oh, I didn't mean it that way, I meant it this way, because then that person's not going to be able to get everything out and be fully heard. You've got to pause all of that and just listen. So we'll do a little demonstration after Layla gets everything on the board. But the first thing that the listener will do, the one who's holding the flower, is, depending on the sender's preference, they can mirror word for word, or they can mirror in their own words. Mirroring is just to say exactly what, you know, say what they said. I like to do in my own words. Layla prefers me in my own words, because then I think it really sinks in for me, and then also I think she feels more heard too, because she knows I've processed it and put it into my own words. But after we get through all, you know, all that she wanted to say, you know, I'll mirror it back, or vice versa. And then we ask the question, is there more?
So, just for any data-driven learners out there, can anybody guess how many times more words women need than men?
40,000.
40,000? Anybody else want to take a stab at it?
A lot.
Right.
8 million?
Say in a day's time, women use about 40,000 words, and men use under 10,000.
Oh, wow.
Okay, so we need about 4 times as many words to communicate the same dang thing as men. All right, y'all engineers, and amazing how you can get to the point so quickly. Women need over 4 times as many words. So whoever has heard of the talking stick in Native American traditions, anybody heard of the talking stick? Yeah, so whoever is holding the stick gets to talk. In marriage, if you're holding the flowers, you get to listen. And I know Josh set that up for us.
Yes.
Okay, so you already kind of shared the parts, even though I have my back to you.
So after after I ask, is there more around that?
Yeah.
She'll, you know, think about it, right? It's a good question that your brain then can go back and maybe go dig a little deeper in your mind to see, well, what is that connected to?
Right.
And you let it out. And then, we just keep repeating that process until we get it all out.
That's right.
And get back to the root of why we're feeling that way. And then the receiver.
The receiver.
Oh, you want to do the validate part?
Not yet.
The receiver will then validate. And the 3 words for me that I want to say every time I validate is, that makes sense. Because that puts it in my brain too. This is how I validate. That makes sense that you would feel that way based on what you told me and your point of view on that. I understand why you would feel that way. It makes sense. And then you get done with that, you empathize. Of course, I missed a step, because in the mirroring part, we gotta make sure that the other person has said everything that they need to say.
Right.
So you say, did I get that? Is there more around that? And then we finally get to a
Without
point.
cutting the person off when
Right.
they're sharing.
Right.
We'll demonstrate. That's easy.
Finally get to the point where it's like, yes, you got it all. You feel fully heard? Yeah. Right? Then you move to the validating, and then you go to the empathizing. That's when you actually feel what they feel in that you
Right.
it helps for me when I actually get the feeling words from Layla, then I can mirror back what the feeling words are. But if I can come up with my own that I feel or that I think are right for the situation, I'll say it in a question. So imagine that, that you might be feeling a little sad about that or something. Like, does that seem right? And she'll tell me if I'm right or not, and I can adjust as necessary. But I'm empathizing with how she's feeling.
And Ruth put it a good way, active listening, right? There's some people that use active listening maybe in your jobs or with your kids or whatever. Listening to understand, mirroring so they feel heard, validating that makes sense, and empathizing for connection.
Yeah, so this was basically the entirety of it from what I remember of, the book that we read. We kind of took it a step further in that when we get to those deeper issues, that's when we can allow God to heal those particular things. Things like, I am protected. I can get that out of my brain when God is ready to deliver it to me like he did this morning. Because I've gotten to a point in a previous safe conversation with Layla where I've identified that this is something that affects me.
I'm ready to model.
You ready?
Okay, so we're going to invite you to be like in our living room. And we've preserved this particular dialogue that we haven't processed something, so we're going to do it organically in front of you. So I just want you to just know that you're going to be like flies on the wall, and we're going to do a little bit of processing around something that happened in our marriage yesterday. Okay, so we are going to model because God said to. He said, don't just talk about it, Layla. You need to show it, right? Who knows that more is caught than what is taught?
That's right.
Woo! All right, so welcome to our living room. I have the listening flower. So what's on your heart, babe? How was work?
It was tough, getting up at 3:30 in the morning, feeling like there was an emergency situation, but I wanted to sleep, I wanted to stay home, and
Yeah.
not go in until my normal time, but I felt obligated because that's my job, is to respond and go in and fix stuff when it's broke.
Yeah.
So I hated, having to leave you in the middle of the night, wake you up too, because of my job, but I know it provides for our family.
Yeah, you had to wake up in the middle of the night and go to work, and you realized that it had an effect on me too.
Yeah.
Was there more around that?
Yeah, just like after that, when I finally got to come home, then I was feeling pressure to go back later because I had made this agreement that I would cover the news, during the evening hours. So, but I also knew we had this event, and we also had to drop the kids off to their mom at the same time, and I know you wanted me to go with you, and then we could come here as soon as possible that way.
So you were...
Yeah, go ahead.
You were feeling pressure?
Yeah.
To go back to work, to finish out your commitment for the news, and then you felt a little pull that I wanted you to go with me to drop the kids off to their mom.
Right.
Was there more? Did I get it so far?
Yeah, so far it's just that, I don't know, I think I just was putting more pressure on myself than was actually there.
You were putting more pressure on yourself than was actually there.
Right, because I'm afraid to disappoint my boss.
You're afraid to disappoint your boss.
Yeah, even though he didn't really even say anything to me about it.
He didn't even say anything to you about it. Was there more around that with your boss?
Well, I don't know, I guess just ever since I was a kid, I've always tried to I always see bosses like father figures.
You see bosses like father figures.
And it's tough for me to, to not see them that way, and I feel like I just always trying to prove myself and just not disappoint in any way.
Didn't want to disappoint your boss, but it goes back to your father figures.
Yeah, you know, my dad left and I didn't see him for a long time, and then my stepdad I couldn't please. He was always disappointed with me. So
Please your dads.
I feel like, you know, sometimes that my bosses are like that, or I feel like I can't please them, you know, or like don't get the recognition that I'm looking for, you know.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. So you feel this internal pressure to perform because maybe your dad never just approved of you.
Right, and then my stepdad always disapproved of me.
Your stepdad always disapproved of you. Was there more around that?
Yeah, it's just that, you know, I remember when that one time he told me that no matter what I did, that if whether he caught me doing something or not, that he was going to punish me, he was going to spank me every day, no matter, you know, if he caught me doing something or not, because that he was sure that there was going to be something that he didn't catch me doing.
Wow. Your stepdad said he was going to discipline you no matter what, even if he caught you doing something or not, you were going to get punished anyway.
Yeah. So I feel like, you know, I'm scared to be punished like all the time now.
Yeah. I can see why you'd be scared that you'd be punished all the time.
Yeah, like I gotta prove that, hey, this is what I did.
Yeah.
This is why I'm not there, because I, you know, was working all these
Yeah.
hours before.
You had to justify why you
Right.
weren't at work because you were
Yeah.
there at 3 a.m.
Right,
all morning.
right.
Mm.
Yeah, I'm trying to give that to God.
Yeah, trying to give it over to God. That makes sense why you would have some internal pressure around that. And I can, did I get it?
You did, yeah.
Was that it?
That was it.
Okay. I can see why you would have some stress and maybe anxiety, and especially some fear around that.
Yeah.
Would that make sense to how you were feeling? A little
Yeah.
afraid of punishment,
Right.
even though you deserve blessing?
Yeah. It's hard for me to receive that. I don't know. Just feel like just getting out without being punished is a blessing.
Okay, so that was one side of the sharing. He was the sender, I was the receiver. And if you're any women in the house that know that we think like spaghetti and guys think like waffles, it was really hard for me not to interject. Did any of your brains want to interject and be like, oh man, I can't believe it, right? We just listen. Okay.
So we'll swing the other direction. What's on your heart?
Man, I watched the self-pressure in you yesterday. And it was hard to see it shutting you down a little bit.
You saw the pressure that I gave myself, and
Yeah.
you saw it shutting me down.
Yeah. Because, you know, I'm gung-ho. I want to get ready and handala, shandala, bakandala for this conference.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew we were both underslept.
Right. Definitely. Yeah, didn't get to sleep again yesterday.
And had two very active boys that were very well slept.
Right. Yes. Boys were very active yesterday.
And I had a raging to-do list.
Big to-do list. Yeah. So was there more around that?
I didn't want to add more stress to you.
Oh.
But my lists are really important to me.
Right. You didn't want to add more pressure to me, but your list is really important.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there more?
I feel like there's always more.
There's always more.
I'm really hard on myself. I want to do well, and I want to be there early, and I want to have dynamic participation. But I also have to accept that God has called me to mama these boys while you sleep.
You wanted my help, but you accepted that I needed to sleep and that it was your job to mother them.
Yeah, and I felt a little bit lonely because I didn't have like a cheerleader that's like, don't worry, Stacy's gonna understand. We're gonna be late. We can't do anything about it. God, please give us some grace. It's frustrating to accept those things I cannot change.
Yeah.
And then, can I keep going?
Yeah.
Then the last thing is that we're gonna have to see her right before we head to this conference to talk about healing through marriage.
Yeah, it's a lot when
Bless.
I know, to transition and drop the kids
And
off to her.
see all of that experience right before we come here on Friday night.
Yeah, I can understand. Was there more around that?
Yeah, I just want you to know I've been praying to like trust God and rest in His love and not be crippled by fear anymore. You know, I've been praying for that every day.
Yeah.
That I'd be filled with His love and not anxiety and fear and stress.
Right. I do know you've been praying every day to be filled with God's love and not anxiety or stress.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to remove fear.
Thanks for listening.
I get everything.
Yeah,
You feel 100% heard?
I do.
That makes sense, that you would feel like a little bit alone maybe in that moment.
Yeah.
Right? That you wished that you had my help.
Yeah.
But you felt the responsibility of bothering them, and then
Yeah.
it makes sense too to also feel that extra pressure because we got to come to the conference and we had to go and drop them
Yeah.
to her, and you didn't know what kind of state of mind she might be in at the moment. So
Ooh.
there's additional pressure there, right?
Right.
That makes sense.
Right.
I can imagine you might have been feeling a little bit stressed by that.
Yeah.
And then you mentioned too not having sleep, so I can understand that you would be feeling tired
Yeah.
as well.
Mm-hmm.
Did I get that?
You did. Thanks, babe.
Yeah.
All right. That's a safe conversation for you. We had held off on processing that until just then. I could feel myself visibly relax. All he did was listen. He didn't try to fix or rescue, right? We don't need to be interrupted. And we don't need a solution, guys. I know your brains are wired. If you hear us complain, you want to fix that thing. But I'll tell you, the more Josh just hears me and doesn't try to solve a solution unless I ask him for help, it really heals me.
Yeah, and I think that as we've practiced it, we've gotten a lot better at it. Like at first, it was so difficult, and we only did it when we had a problem. And when you only, the therapist put it that you got to practice for the game, so that when you're in the game, you know what to do.
If you think about athletes,
Yeah,
right?
I equated it to football because it's one of my favorites. But so we started practicing every morning as part of our routine, so that when one of us gets triggered and gets upset, the other one, instead of responding with a harsh word, can respond with a gentle answer and say, "Hey, what's up? What's on your heart?" And we can start that process so that we work through that moment and we stay regulated and in unity.
It's a good point about the practice. You guys heard us. We have a little bit of a gelling today in our safe conversation. We can do that naturally, even in front of a room full of people that didn't know all those intimate details that were just revealed, right? Because we're secure in our relationship, but it has taken many hours of practice. But the joy about a safe conversation when it's done successfully is it allows the person to be fully heard, seen, and known for what's going on inside of them.
And I'd like to share too a very important part that we missed at the beginning, and that's zero negativity.
Oh,
Or as
Zen.
yes, like that's how the book puts it, but we like to speak what we want, so we'll say keep it positive.
Yeah.
Because if you notice when we shared with each other, when we didn't put the other person down, because that would have made it like extremely difficult for the other person to hear if they were getting like insults thrown at them.
Yeah. Because I could feel the pressure. I didn't know it was attached to his daddy. I knew the boss, and I simply was curious about how work went. You see that? And then it was like, ooh, tied to back there.
Yeah, it's a very good point. The curious part is that when you're upset, to be curious about the other person instead of point the finger.
So, a key word I'd love for each one to hear, and we've heard it throughout the conference, just not said this way, is that God's heart for us, each one of us, is that we become fully alive, not just getting by. I know people in this room that have been attacked left and right since 2020, and discouraged and knocked down and knocked down and knocked down. And God is saying, I want you to be fully alive. And in the context of a relationship where there's a high commitment, even if you just simply show up 40 hours a week with that same colleague, God wants to use relationships to heal us deeply that our parental figures were never able to give us, when we can lean into a safe conversation.
And I like the words that you put here on our notes, to be fully heard, fully seen, fully understood, and fully known. And I'd add to that, loved. Because when you see me, all of me, when it's safe for me to be me, without condemnation, I feel so loved.
Yeah.
And
I adore you.
I feel fully alive.
I want you. Oh, living room. Okay. Hey, friends.
But it's not. She's not telling me that she wants me in sexual.
I know. I'm sorry.
But, although she does. Yes. But
Blushing. We didn't plan for this. Oh my gosh, I need a fan.
like, we went through this for that particular word. Like I've been needed before. Like I need you to provide for my needs. Or I need you to do this or do that, or I need you to bring some money home. I've been needed, and that's not the same as being wanted. Like as a kid, I didn't feel like my dad wanted me because he was gone and never spoke to me. So, and I didn't feel my stepdad wanted me either because he put me down all the time, and I was like, the red-headed stepchild getting choked. So, like for her to tell me like that she wants me, is to say that she knows who I am, and she still wants me around. She wants to be with me.
Mm-hmm.
That's really special to me. That we worked to get to that by doing safe conversations. We figured out that was one of my biggest needs. And one of Layla's biggest needs, if I could share, is that you are worthy of all the attention. And you have all of my attention.
My face cringes every time I hear you say that.
She's still working on receiving that one.
It's really hard for me to receive that.
Right. As you know, in a big family, it's hard to get attention. So
You get lost in a sea of people.
we got to this point where we could start speaking these things over each other. That's bringing healing. It's both of us.
Yeah. As we're gonna get ready to land the plane, and so I don't start completely bawling. Anybody got kids in here? Anybody have more than one child? Have at least 2 kids? You ever, when your kids go at it? You know what I'm talking about? If your kids have ever gone at it? Well, he's right? Like, I don't have to tell you what that's like. That's right. Our kids, they do this. Matthew specifically, he's like, "Get away from me," he says. And the other one says, "Stop it." They're really bold. But I've found that when they escalate, I can either co-escalate with them or I can use a safe conversation. Well, he did, da, da, da. And I just start to implement active listening. Wow, he said blah, blah, blah. And I will visibly watch these children relax and actually take a deep guttural breath when they get it all out. And I say those magic words. Was there more? Yeah. Blah, 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 blah. Our boys, they're very demonstrative. Yeah, guess what? You know, and I just mirror, oh, wow, yeah, he did this, and blah, blah, and I hear you, and I just let him know, I hear you. And I say, was there more? And then I reflect back, I heard you, da, da, da. Was there anything else? No, that's it. And they bless it and they move on. Because they felt heard. But until they feel heard, it's, wow, well, he's on it. And then I say, hey, I would love to hear both sides of the story. But one at a time, please.
Yeah. Did you want to finish with the verse? James 1:19 says, "My dear brothers and sisters, take note of this. Everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry." Okay, I'll finish. Because human anger does not produce the righteousness that God desires.
I have one more verse, and we're going to just really finish up here. I don't know, Kim, if you wouldn't mind getting back on the keys. If you please, madame. You and your fabulous gift. And your husband, I mean. Both of you.
Love seeing healthy marriages.
Ephesians 4:3, it says, make every effort to keep the unity of the Spirit through the bond of peace.
Amen.
You guys already heard, we don't have to look the same, sound the same. Being the same is not what we're after. I am never going to think like him. He has a nothing box he could go to and actually think about nothing. I'm not wired that way. I am not wired that way. God blesses men. They can actually be like, what are you thinking about? Nothing. No, seriously, what are you thinking about? They literally are thinking about nothing, and it is their happy place. And that is definitely okay. But make every effort to keep the unity of the Spirit through the bond of peace. Is that I can sing a melody and Josh can sing a harmony and we can still be singing the same song. And I want to encourage you with that no matter where you are in your relationships. That if you don't have a person to practice safe conversations with, you can get with one of us. You can get with me, especially if you're a woman. I'd be happy to listen. But it just takes a little practice, and it gets better with time. It's amazing how much God can heal inside of you when someone is not selfish and can be selfless enough to just hear where you're at, no matter what the topic is. We have processed things that may seem shallow to some, but have deep roots, because that is how God heals us. We were hurt in relationship, and we're healed in relationship.
Amen. So we go over stuff like this, and other topics, other things that we've learned, other tools that we have on our Layla in the Morning YouTube channel. So if you guys are interested, you should sign up, and it'd be great to grow that and really use these things that God has taught us to bless other people.
In the very back of the room, there's a couple of them. There's a big QR code. We started a sign-up list just to bless people with tips, and it'll take you, once you fill it out, to our YouTube channel, where God spoke to us on a road trip one time and said, you need to capture the lessons learned so that it can help heal people relationally. And so we make a point to practice getting on camera and building this YouTube for people that are in relationship or want to get ready for the mate of God's choosing. to come along with us on the journey. I just encourage you to get a part of that, or if you have trouble with it, I'll send it to you.
Also individual coaching for women, Layla does, and she's certified in inner healing, and then we can do couples coaching together if anybody's interested.
But, thanks, hon.
Yeah.
And I just really want to encourage you to not give up. Not give up. Please don't give up. Please do not give up. If you have pain inside your marriage, conflict is growth trying to happen. Conflict is growth trying to happen. And so I just want to just end by saying, when conflict arises and you notice that door slamming a little bit harder than it should, to maybe see if you're the one that can be the listener and just say, hey, what's on your heart? Maybe you just need to pick up the phone and call a friend that's not going to try to fix or rescue you, that can listen.
So when you're in unity, you can be fully alive.
Yeah. So thank you for having us. Thank you, Stacy, for inviting us. I'm really grateful for the opportunity to share.